Hello everyone, my name is Nathan and welcome back to my channel if you are a subscriber here. Today I am doing my January TBR video, so let's get right into it. So here I have with me my trusty TBR jar. If you don't know what a TBR jar is, I just call mine a jar. It could be a basket or anything else, but basically this is just a vessel that has a whole bunch of different prompts inside of it that I've written for books I'd like to read. So for example, I have like read a nonfiction book, read a book that is, over 500 pages, things like this, right? And it just helps me decide what books that I want to read in the month I'm doing it in. So I'm doing it in January, so obviously I'm picking out my January reads, but my goal for 2025 is to read 40 books this year, which means I have to roughly read about 3 to 4 books a month. So I'm going to be pulling 6 prompts out of the TBR jar today, and hopefully we get some good ones. So as of right now, my goals are to get some of these books, or at least one of them, on my list. So I really want to read Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir this month because I know the movie's coming out soon. It's going to take me a little bit to get through this book, but I'd like to get that book on there as well as a few others. So let's go ahead and get right into it and pull out our very first prompt. I'm just going to kind of shake them around a little bit and pull one out. So here is our very first prompt. I'm going to open it up. And it says, a book with less than 200 pages. So I think I'm going to choose a book called Small Things Like These. So this is a book that I have been wanting to read for a while. I actually meant to read it as my last book of 2025 to read, and it's going to end up having to be the first book of 2026 to read because I did not get to it last year. If you want to see all the books that I read last year, watch my tier list video where I rank all of the books I read in 2025. In that, it just went up, so I'll put a card somewhere up here for that. But first book from the TBR jar is going to be Small Things Like These. This is just such a fun little thing you can do. Like if you're only reading like one book a month, it doesn't really make sense, but if you're going through books kind of fast, it's a fun thing to do because I have such a hard time deciding what books I want to read. Have your partner pick a book off of your TBR. So I'm going to have to get my boyfriend here to help me pick out this one. So we'll come back to this one. This will be our last one. I can set this one aside. All right. So we're going to pull out number 3 now. A book in a series. Oh my gosh. This is going to be a hard one because there are some series that I'm reading, but I don't know if I want to start a new series right now, if I want to read a sequel. So let me look at my Goodreads TBR really quick, and we will come back to this one. Okay, so for our second book that we pulled out, I guess our third book technically, is going to be the first Heartstopper book. And this one was a book that I was planning on reading anyways this year. I've read all these books already, but this is the first one in a series. It's not a very long book. It's a graphic novel, but I have it on my list to read one of these per month because the last book in the series comes out in July. So I'm super excited to get back into these books, and it's going to be my little treat every month to read through one of these. So my third book on my January TBR is going to be Heartstopper Volume 1. All right, back into the TBR jar for our next prompt. So it's going to be prompt number 4. All right, little blue polka dot one. Okay, our fourth book of 2026 is going to be a book by a new author. So I think I'm going to pick Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir because I have not read any Andy Weir books yet. And I think this will be a perfect prompt for this. So our fourth book of January 2026 is going to be Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Okay, time for prompt number 5. Hoping for maybe an audiobook or 2 for these last ones. Oop, this one flew right out, so I think I'll pick this one. Okay, our next prompt says a book about books or reading. So I'm going to have to go and consult my TBR list and find a book about books or reading. Okay, our next book on the January TBR is going to be The Last Chance Library by Freya Sampson. This book I've had on my TBR for a while now. It looks interesting enough, so I'm not sure if we're going to end up getting to it to January or not, but I feel like it'll be a good kind of filler audiobook to kind of fill in some of the gaps in my reading for January. So it's going to be our next book on TBR. Okay, time to pull out our last prompt of the TBR jar for January. And it is going to be this kind of pink one with little yellow accents on it. So let's get this one right on open. So our next prompt on our January TBR is going to be a nonfiction book from an author you don't know a lot about. So I think I am going to pick Retribution by Jonathan Carl. I've never read a Jonathan Carl book before, but I believe this one is on the elections of 2024 between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, and I'm really interested to get into this. It is a bit of a beefy book, but I'm super excited. It looks really interesting, and I've never read anything by Jonathan Carl before. I really don't know all that much about him. It just looks like interesting books. I picked it up from my local bookstore one day. So next book is going to be Retribution by Jonathan Carl. And before I forget, I need to get my boyfriend to come over here and pick out one last book for me to read in January because we got this prompt. So I'm going to have him come over and we'll be right back. Okay, my boyfriend came over and picked out the last book for me to read in January, and that is going to be Other Birds by Sarah Addison Allen. I know literally nothing about this book. I don't remember how this book got onto my TBR. I don't know if I saw this in a bookshop. I don't know if I saw this, I don't know if it was recommended to someone online. I don't remember. I don't remember what the deal with this book is, but that was going to be the last book for me to read in January. So let's go and do a little recap of all the books I'm going to try to read in January 2026. Okay, our very first prompt was a book with less than 200 pages. So I am going to be reading small things like these. Next is a book about books or reading, and I am going to be reading The Last Chance Library by Freya Sampson. Next, I got a book that your partner picks off your TBR, and that was Other Birds by Sarah Addison Allen. The next one I got was a nonfiction book by an author you know nothing about, so I picked Retribution by Jonathan Carl. Next, we got a book by a new author, and I picked Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And the last book I have was a book in a series, so I picked the first Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Ousman. I am super excited to get into these books in January, so come back here at the beginning of February for my next TBR video. We'll see how I did on these books in January, how many of them I started, how many of them I did not start at all, how many are going back on the TBR, where we're at with all that, and we'll pick out 6 more prompts for February 2026. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate it so much. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you want to see more reading content. I have a tier list video of all my 2025 reads up right now. As linked in the description down below, as well as at the end of this video. I highly recommend you go and watch that if you want to see what I read last year. And I also will be having some videos going up soon about my reading journal. I have to finish it up and get a video filmed for you all. So if you want to see my reading journal, how I'm organizing, keeping track of all my reads in 2026, be on the lookout for that. But with that, I appreciate you all so much for watching. I will see you all in the very next video. Bye.